Big shout out to my tier 3 patrons, Tyson the Keymaster, Mike and Sandra over on YouTube at FlumiPlus1, Ryan, Josh, and Alex. Thank you all so much for making this video possible. I was flipping through this Lonely Planet guide to London, and I found this cool little map of excursions from London, like the distances you can travel. I thought this would be really fun to recreate inside of Adobe After Effects using GeoLayers. So that's what we're doing in today's tutorial. If you want to get the project files, head over to my Patreon page. I'll have them all available over there. And if you'd like to learn more about GeoLayers and become an expert, I have a premium course that I'm working on right now. If you want to join the waitlist for that, there's a link in the video description. Go sign up for that. In our reference here, this is the lower part of England. I'm going to zoom in here, try to get the same location. And now I'm going to create a map comp, and we'll call this Lonely Planet Excursions. And I'll switch it to Ultra HD 4K, 24 frames per second, and we'll make this like a 6-second animation or maybe a 10-second animation. Click next. It doesn't matter which image profile I pick because I'm going to be turning off the imagery. To turn off the imagery, you just click on this button up here, and then there's a little imagery button. You just deactivate it. And now it's saying it's a controller comp. Click on this, and then I'm going to actually, right now I have transparency toggled, so I'm going to toggle that back so we just have like a black background here. Now first I want to grab the colors from this map, and it's quite simple. You only have a few colors here. You have the roads, you have the ocean or the water here, this is the channel, and then you have the land, and then there's even kind of like a faint white grayish color over here. So let's pull those real quick and create layer styles from these. So to create a layer style, you click on this little button over here, and then you go to add style. And first let's do the land. So I'll rename this layer style land. And to see the color values of this, I can bring up my info panel. You just go to window and select info. And now as I drag my cursor over this image, it's going to give me the different color values. You see them in the range from 0 to 255. If you have it set to auto color display or something else, they're going to show up as huge numbers. So just be sure that you can set it right here. 8 bits per channel at 0 to 255, which is going to be friendly, GeoLayers friendly. And now you can see I've got RGB levels of 160, 150, 140. So I'm going to go click on this fill color over here, and I'm just going to manually type this in. So for red, 160, for green, 150, and for blue, 140. And that's about the same color here. So I'm going to click apply. Now we have our land. And now I'm going to add another style here. We'll call this roads. And this is going to be a stroke only. So I'll turn off fill, and I'm going to deselect use fill color. I'm going to hold the cursor over this color, and let's see if we can pull this. 145, 127, 80. 145, 127, 80. Okay, that's looking about right. Click on apply. And now for the water, I don't really need to create a layer style. I'm actually going to just use a background solid for that. It'll just be easier. So let's go ahead and draw out our land. So I'm going to select the land layer style, and then under the keyword search, I'm going to look for United Kingdom and grab this polygon, add it to my browser. And now with this layer style selected, I actually need to look at the properties here, and I have it set to simplify geometry max zoom, which is how I want it. So I'll keep it there, and then click on this little button, draw feature, and that will draw this out. I'm going to go, I actually need to put this in a separate kind of window here so we can see everything at the same time. A little hard on a laptop. Okay, so now I have the land drawn out here. For the water, what I will do is I will right click in the comp here, or in the sequence, and I'm going to go to new solid, and then I'll grab the color picker and just sample the blue over here, and I'll rename this water, and then I can drag this right underneath my UK. Now don't worry, we're going to texture this up and make it look a lot better. Now right now we're seeing way too much water, so I'm going to zoom this way in on our location here so we have kind of more land than water showing up. Now I'm going to be drawing labels for all of these locations. We have 6 locations here. I want to download the geodata for each of these so then I can create label templates and use that geodata to quickly draw all these out. I can manually keyword search all of these, or I can just download some OpenStreetMap data. So if you go click on this plus button over here and you say download features, at the very bottom you have places, and it says OpenStreetMap places for the current view. So current view is everything that you have framed up in your map comp. So click on places and the features are going to come up, and it's basically going to grab all cities. So hopefully it will have downloaded everything we want here. Now, looks like they're not alphabetized. So to do that, with the feature collection selected, click on feature properties, and then there's a button right here that says sort features by name. Click on that and then apply that, and now they will be alphabetized. I only need these 5 here, actually 6, Bath, Brighton, Cambridge, London. So I'm just going to, I'll full screen this, and I'm going to grab these by control clicking, and I'm going to create a new feature collection once I've grabbed them all. So Bath, Brighton, Cambridge, London, Oxford. So that's how many? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then Windsor. Okay, so it looks like the only one we don't have is Windsor. So now with these 5 selected, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to grab these and take them out of the feature collection, and now we can just grab places and delete this. So now we have all of these, and now I'll just manually search Windsor. So it looks like we only have, right here, this is a city, but this is a Canadian city, so we don't want this one. We want to grab this, and this is actually a polygon. So it doesn't really matter. If you're adding labels, it doesn't matter, but if you're using these points to drive shape layers, and that will matter. So if you'd like to convert this to a point, with it selected, you can just click on this little button here, and it says convert polygons to points. So as I click on that, now we have a Windsor point. Okay, so now we have all of these features ready. I'm going to delete the stuff we don't need. Now I'll grab all of these, and I can create a new feature collection by clicking this little folder, and then we'll call it Lonely Planet Places, or you can call it Excursions or whatever you want. Now we need to create a label template. What we can do is we're going to create this little ellipse with the stroke and the text. So I'm going to go to the project panel, and I'm just going to create a new composition, and I'll just do standard HD 1920 by 1080, and we'll call it Lonely Planet Label. Click OK. And I'm going to toggle transparency because I want to use black text. So I'm going to grab my text tool here, and the font I'm using is called Open Sans. We'll do bold. And now all I need to do is type in feature. I don't want it to be all caps. Once you apply the label template via the geodata, it'll automatically apply it because it'll pull from the data field and change the name. So all we need to type is feature. I don't even think you need to type feature. I think if you just have a text element in here, it's automatically going to draw it from it. And for the point, I'm going to go grab an ellipse. I'll set the fill to this white color. It's at 90%. And we'll add a stroke by clicking on this word stroke. Click on this solid. Okay, and then let's do like I think a 5 pixel width is just fine here with a 9% brightness level here. Okay, hold shift and double click is going to give you a symmetrical circle, and I'll rename this point, and then I'll go to ellipse path, and then for size I'm going to bring it way down. We'll bring it down to something like 50. And now for this, I will just put this simply, right over the top. And we're going to have to manually come in here and move these to kind of match our reference here. Because if you look at the labels, like this one's off to the right, this one's on the top. So I don't want to create individual templates for position. I could if we're doing a bunch of work like this, but I'll just manually change the templates. So now we have this base template. To actually make it work like a template, you have to bring the comp into the GeoLayers 3 items folder, and then under here you have labeled templates. So once you drop this here, it's now a label template, and you can find it in the GeoLayers 3 panel. In this drop-down menu, scroll to the bottom, you can now see Lonely Planet Label. So click on that, and then go grab all your geodata for all of these, and then click on Label Features, Add Labels. And now, boom, 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 GeoLayers is going to do its thing, and it's going to label all of our locations. Most times when you're working with labels, it's not this simple. You have to go in and tweak it based on size and keep tweaking until you're happy. Like right now, this is overlapping here. So what we want to do is first, we're going to change the position of our map view. So we'll zoom this in a bit, and that's going to give them some more space. And now I'll manually go in here and start to tweak the position of some of this text. So we'll start with Windsor, and for Windsor, we want it to be kind of off to the side here like this, so it's not overlapping with London. And for Bath, we'll come down to Bath, and we want Bath to be over here on the right side. And then maybe for Brighton, if we look at the reference image here, we have Brighton off to the left as well. So we'll open up Brighton, move it off to the left. I'm just kind of eyeballing this, And then we have Cambridge up here. Maybe to balance it out, we can put Cambridge on the right side. Okay, so now I have these cities labeled, but if you look, we have London, and London is, because it's the capital, it looks a little bit different. So I'm not going to create a new label template. I'm just going to go into this existing one and tweak it. So I'll grab the text, go to the character panel, and make it all capitalized, and maybe even make it, I think it's a little bit bigger, so maybe like 125. And then I'll grab the point, and under contents, I will change the size of this to maybe like 75. And now I'm going to add a star. And if you look here, if you look at the reference, it's a black ellipse with a white star in the middle. So that's simple enough. We just turn the stroke off for this, and we set the fill color to the black, that 9%. And then make sure you deselect this. And now I'm going to go grab the star tool, and we'll change the fill to white. And the reason you deselect that point is because if I was tweaking these colors now, it would change the color of my ellipse. And now double click the star. It's going to create this gigantic star, rename it star. And I'm going to simply scale this one down. And we can eyeball this as well, put it right in the middle, something like that. And if you don't want it poking out the sides here, you can grab this track mat and use it as an alpha mat, use the point as an alpha mat, and then just toggle that back on, and now it's not going to stick out of the sides. And this star is looking a little fat, so if I come into the inner radius down here, I'm just going to turn this down ever so slightly. Maybe not. Well, you can go pretty crazy here. All right, I'm going to close this out. Now let's see what we got. Okay, that's looking better, but I think the London text might be a little too much. Yeah, let's bring that London text down a little bit. I think 125 is just too much. Let's go 110. Let's do 105. All right, looking good. Now let's draw out these roads. So to draw out these paths here, what you do is you grab the two locations. So for instance, let's go London to Cambridge. We'll go grab London, hold Control and click Cambridge. And now you just click this Connect Features and select Car. And it's not going to be exactly the same, but who cares? So now I have this new feature, and I'm going to switch my layer style to this road, and hopefully it will look halfway decent when I go to draw the feature. So draw the feature out, and let's see how it holds up. If it's not there. Where is it? Did I draw it out? Oh, it's underneath my water. Okay, so let's put it up here and see if the stroke width is good. Wow, okay. Actually, that is looking good right now. Okay, not bad. And now I'm just going to repeat this process for all of these locations using my reference image. So let me go to the reference here, and we have 4 different paths. So we'll go London to Oxford. Actually, what we can do, let's see if we can connect London to Windsor to Oxford. So London, Control click Windsor, and then Control click Oxford. Now, the way you have these layered, it's going to go top to bottom. So it's always going to go from the location that is at the top. So if I connect all these features now via car, it should connect them. You can see here we have the 3 locations here. So I'll go ahead and draw these out now. Draw these features out. We can actually animate them if we want. And just going to repeat here for London to Bath and London to Brighton. Now we have these 2 ellipses that are showing us the distance. Now if you check that, I did a tutorial about this showing how to calculate walking distance. And the way that you can do this quickly is you go to this little script, run script file, and then you do scale bar. And it doesn't matter where, because I'm not actually going to be using this scale bar. I'm just using it to draw out an ellipse because it gives us the distance here. So what you can do, it's showing us 20 kilometers here. So in our reference, we want to do 150 kilometers. So let's do 50 kilometers first. The way that I can increase this is I go grab the shape layer here for the scale. And what you have for the point here, you have X and Y. So as I move the X, that's going to increase our scale bar, and the number reflects to show the distance here. And this is a pixel value. So I'll know that 50 kilometers, I can set it to a fixed size here. So as I move this along right here, we know that 430 pixels is 50 kilometers, and that's at this scale or this zoom level. Based on that, I'm going to go grab the ellipse tool again, and I'm going to copy this color, just use the same color here. I'll copy the hex code, and I'm going to turn the stroke on, turn the fill off, and then paste this color in here. And now hold shift, double click the ellipse. So we have this ellipse now. And if I open up the ellipse path, I can set the actual size here. And we know that 430 pixels is 50 kilometers. Actually, that's not right. I made this mistake before. So we have to double this because 50 kilometers is the whole diameter of this. So we want the radius. Is that right? Radius or diameter? The half the distance. So we need to do 860 actually. So 860. And I'm going to rename this and call it 50 kilometers. And what I can do now, it's not attached to the map, but if I hold shift and drag the parent pick whip here and attach it to London, the little London label, it's going to snap it straight to London. And now we have 50 kilometers. And the key is that you hold shift. Holding shift will actually like overwrite the location. It's going to place it right directly on London. If you don't hold shift, it's just going to attach it and keep it in its existing position. And now if I don't want it to be just connected to the label, I can actually connect it to the anchor. So we'll do Lonely Planet Excursions anchor, the actual map comp anchor. And then I'm going to toggle this and make sure that it's set to 3D so that if I do decide to do any bearing or pitch changes to my map, that it will move with it. I want it to be flat with the map. Now what I can do with this one is simply duplicate it. And I'm going to call this one 100 kilometers. And then come in here and we're going to do the ellipse path. And we'll just grab this and say 860 times 2. And now we've got our extra distance here, 100 kilometers, which if we look at this, that should be correct. Now let's label these distance ellipses. So I'll grab my text tool and we'll use the same font here, but we're going to do maybe like 50. Here we go. And then I'm going to go right up here and we'll type this in. We'll say 100 kilometers. And we're going to grab this color again. I keep forgetting what the actual color is here. So I'm just going to copy this hex code again. And we'll go here and paste it. There we go. And you know what? I'm not going to do Imperial because ain't nobody got time for that. I'm just going to rotate this like this. And then just kind of rough it in here. And now once this is in place, I'm going to connect it to the anchor and set it to 3D. Make sure you set it to 3D after you connect it because it will get all wonky if you do it after. Now I'll duplicate this and simply reposition this one down here. And then we'll change this one to 50. And now I can get rid of this scale bar. I'm pretty much done now. I'm just going to add some texture and maybe crop it. And see this little lighter area? It's showing you Greater London. So if I come over here, I'm going to search London. And right here you can see this is Greater London as a polygon. I'll grab that and then maybe create a new style. We'll call it Greater London. And maybe have like some kind of like a lighter gray. And we can draw this out. And maybe just bring the opacity way, way down. Now I'm just going to move this, try to center this up a little bit. And maybe I do want to have like a square map. Grab this whole containing map comp, put it in a new sequence. And then for this sequence, I'm going to hit Control K and we're going to make this square. So we'll do 2160 by 2160. And I'll call it Lonely Planet Excursion Map Square. And now you can see I might need to scale it out ever so slightly. And naturally I could come in here and just quickly change the scale of all of these. So let's bring these labels and scale them all down to like 75. See how that looks. It's looking a little bit better. And now for this main map comp, I am going to go to the Effects and Presets panel. And we're going to go to Border. And we'll do Composition Border. And I'm just going to add this border to it. And to add some final texture, I'm going to go to New Adjustment Layer. And I'll call this Noise. And I'm going to go up to Effects and Presets. And we'll just search for Noise. And go grab this. Place it on here. And then maybe add like 10%. And that's just, well, maybe 8%. And that's just going to give you a little something. You can see if I zoom in here, you can definitely see that there's a little bit more texture to it. Okay, everything's set up. Now I'm ready to animate. I'm going to keep this simple, and I'm also going to design it in a way that it loops endlessly. First, let's focus on these paths here. So let's say I want all these paths to animate to their cities, like animating out from London. So I'm gonna go grab all these paths here, and I'm gonna solo them. And now I'm gonna go up here, and let's focus on one first. Let's focus on this one. So I'm just gonna solo this one, and then I can copy paste to the rest. So I have this path, and I'm gonna go click the add button up here and select trim paths, and then I'll open this up, and all I need to do is animate this from 0 to 100, and I'm gonna do it over the course of 2 seconds. So we'll put a keyframe here at the end point, and then I'll go back to the beginning, and I'll set the end parameter to 0, and now we have this path animating on, and I'll just simply grab these and add some easy ease. You can use shortcut key F9 to quickly do that. That makes it just a little bit smoother there. And now I can grab the trim path animator, copy it, and then grab these other 3 paths and just paste them on. And now let's solo them and see what they do. Actually, I pasted them on a little bit further down on the timeline, so I'm going to grab these keyframes and bring them over here. I'm hitting the U key to see all the keyframes here. So let's see what this looks like. Okay, so that looks good. The only problem is that this section here, I want this to start, I want this Windsor to whatever it is, I want that to start later. So I'm going to grab whichever one this is. Let's see. Okay, it's this one. And then I'll just move the start keyframe here so that it starts a little bit later. There we go. And now I can kind of just tweak the end timing here to make them not so uniform. Okay, so these paths are good to go. I'm going to close these. And let's say as the paths reach their final destination, then I will have these ellipse distance markers animate on. So right around the 2-second mark, I'm going to let's grab all 4 of these layers here. So we have the text elements and we have the 2 ellipses. I'm going to go to the shape elements here, and I'm going to search for the size parameter. You could naturally animate this by scale as well. I'll add a keyframe to the end size of both of these, and then I'll just come over here and we'll set them both to 0. So I'm animating the size just to keep the pixels specific. You could naturally do scale as well. I don't really know which would be the best option. Actually, I think it's fine like this, but I'm just going to go grab the graph editor, and with the value graph, I'm going to make these kick on a little bit faster. Okay, so something like that. And then as these come on, I want both of these text elements to fade on. So I'll grab both of them, and I'm going to search in Effects and Presets panel. I'm going to search for Fade In. And at the top here, you have Behaviors, Fade In Frames. I'm going to double click that. And what that does, that adds a 15 frame transition on. So wherever I trim these, they will transition on. So right here, I'm going to trim these back. If you want a keyboard shortcut for this, you hold Alt and then hit left bracket and it'll trim it. So now let's look at this. Okay, that's good to go. So now we have the paths animating on, and then we have these animating on. Maybe I want these to animate on first. Now it's just like play with the timing. You know what? I think I will play with the timing here. I want these all to animate on at the same time. So I'm going to move the keyframes of this, and then I will trim this back to the start. And let's just see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that looks a little bit better. Now I can focus on these labels. So let's grab all the labels except for London. And I'm going to go ahead and double click this fade in as well. Let's full screen this and take a look. So I want this animation to be on for maybe 10 seconds and then animate back off. So I want to have some secondary animation or movement to keep it a little bit interesting. So I'm going to go back to Effects and Presets and search for a simple map marker. And then I'm going to make sure I don't have any layers selected because this is going to create its own new shape layer. And I'll double click, and now we have this new map marker here. And I'm going to call it London map marker. If you just watch it, it's a simple pinging element. So I need to first attach this to London. To do that, I'm going to attach it to the London label. So if I look at London here, one quick way to get it directly over the label is I grab this and I grab the parent pick whip, and then I hold shift, and then as I release it, it's going to overwrite the position details. Now it's connected to the label, but now I'd like to just connect it to the map. So I'm going to turn off the visibility of the London thing here, the London label. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the parent link to the actual map comp anchor. It's just a little bit better. And now I'll toggle this and I'll set it to 3D. I don't need to worry too much here because I'm not animating the actual map view, so none of this is going to like fly out of sync here. And now what I want to do is I'm just going to tweak this. You have, if you look up in the effect controls panel, you have all these parameters. So what I want this to do is I want it to ping. It's on this loops as well. So I want it to ping out kind of roughly to the distance of this 100 kilometers. So I need to set the stroke offset. Well, first I'll scale it down a little bit. I'm going to scale it down to like 75, and then I'm going to set the stroke offset way high, like 650. And now if I look here, okay, you can see that this loops right now on a 1 second loop. So it goes, this actually looks pretty perfect. Let's take a look at it actually. And I'm going to go back down here and retime this animation so that it perfectly matches this one. So I'll grab these keyframes and let's see if it actually matches the map marker movement here. So the map marker has a more like kind of doesn't have the same kick to it, but that's perfectly fine. Actually, I'm going to send this way out. Okay, that looks a little bit better. Now what I'm going to do is just change the blend mode here, blend this in a little bit more. We'll switch it to like overlay maybe, and then turn the opacity way down. Okay, so now we have our animation on. This map marker is just going a little too fast. So I'm going to go back to the effect controls and I'm going to set it to 2 seconds. And now to have this loop seamlessly, I just want to make sure that my sequence is divisible by this animation duration. So whatever is looping here, this is the only thing that's looping. So this is 10 seconds, so this will be perfectly fine. This will essentially, this map marker will ping 5 times, which is perfectly fine. Now what I want to do, I'm going to bring this below my noise here. I'm actually going to bring this below all of these elements. So now what I need to do is I need to animate this out at the end. So if I hit U and just look at all of these keyframes, I'm going to full screen this and look at all these keyframes. There's actually not too much going on. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to do a little cheat. I have an extension called Motion. I'm going to go open this up. Normally what you would do here is you would grab these keyframes and then you can copy and then you can paste them over here and you can right click and do Keyframe Assistant Time Reverse Keyframes. And now if I bring that to the end, it will perfectly animate out. So if I just look at this, it's going to animate back out. But a quicker way is to use this motion extension here, and I'm going to grab all of my keyframes and I'm going to bring them kind of over, not too far. And then I'll jump over to the tools here, and there's a tool called Clone, and you can actually say mirror. Okay, now I put this up here. And since this is going to be looping, I want to leave a little bit of a buffer here. So we have like 1 second of kind of a pause. Oh, and actually now I need to trim out these other effects that are fading out. So I'm going to grab all the labels except for London, and I'm going to trim them to the end here. And for that, I'm holding Alt right bracket, and that trims them. And since this effect, it says fade out duration 15 frames, it will automatically fade it out at the trim point. And I'm going to go ahead and do that with this text element as well. We want to make sure that these fade out. Actually, these will fade out right here. So Alt, click that. Now I think we're good to go. Maybe I just want to reposition this now a little bit. Yeah, I'm going to tweak the position ever so slightly to try to match this here. And it looks like I'm going to move the Cambridge label to give me a little more space here. I'm going to move this on the other side, so we'll go back and just grab Cambridge. Now I don't want this tutorial to be like an hour, but I think some final touches here is we could actually add the imperial distance, but come on UK, US, what are we doing here? To make this border stand out a little bit, you could add a very, very faint black border to the land here. We could add a label down here, and then maybe we could even add like a very, very subtle gradient on the land. And then even as a very final touch, I would add a real subtle texture, maybe some kind of a paper texture. This tutorial doesn't need to be 15 hours. As they say, done is better than perfect. Is that what they say? Okay, so there's a quick down and dirty Lonely Planet style animation. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. If you want to see more content like this, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. If you're really, really into map animations, go check out my Patreon page. There's a link down in the video description. And if you want to become a master of GeoLayers 3, I'm actually releasing a premium course called GeoLayers 3 Masterclass. I will also leave a link down in the video description for that.